Hey guys, welcome to the Export Fundas podcast. We have Jagat sir in the studio after a long time. Thank you, Jagatji, for joining us.
Pleasure, always.
So, if you guys don't know, he's on his Mentor on Road right now in Bangalore. And if you don't know what Mentor on Road is, check out his LinkedIn page. We'll link it in the description below. A lot of updates, a lot of interesting stuff. So, Jagatji, how's Bangalore treating you?
Except for the traffic, it's wonderful. The weather is great, the people are amazing, and the food is absolutely matching to my taste.
So, guys, today's topic is something interesting. Uh, this came a little bit in the limelight a month and a half back in Karnataka, which is GCCs, Global Capability Centers. So, we'll do a deep dive into GCCs, why they are so lucrative for every state government to have. In fact, across the globe, any country would love to have GCCs of large MNCs. Why is that the case? How are governments across India trying to attract GCCs? And then finally, we'll conclude with what you, as a business owner, should think about when you're thinking about GCC and overall look at where this particular trend is going. So let's get started. Jagatji, can you take us through what exactly is a GCC? What is a Global Capability Center? So, Jagatji, let's start with the first question, which is what are global capability centers?
So, thanks, Nikhil. It feels good to be back in your studio. And see, I have always been saying that when India was called Sone ki Chidiya, we were a knowledge economy. 25% of the world GDP was Indian. What is knowledge economy? Global Capability Center is nothing but not part of knowledge economy.
Okay.
So, Global Capability Center GCCs are places where you have shared services. Any big company, all these multinational companies, they outsource a lot of things. Different departments outsource to different companies, but in a GCC they have shared services within the departments of the company. Then you have innovation, which happens, research and development, R&D activities, team collaborations, right? Customer support, very strong component, process optimization, and back office operations. So these are the activities which are all knowledge oriented. So they don't want to limit that knowledge to a particular, say for example, their head office or even the regional offices. So this is a concept which started somewhere in 2000, but even then it was more looked upon like uh, kind of outsourcing, but it has evolved as a strategic alignment process for these MNCs.
Okay. So so you mentioned outsourcing, right? How is this different from a typical outsourcing?
So the first and foremost is ownership,
Okay.
right? In GCCs, the ownership is by the multinational companies,
Okay.
but in outsourcing, the ownership is by some another company to
Okay.
whom they outsource the work. So there is a big difference in both the models, right? Second is strategic integration.
Okay.
So in GCCs, there is a strategic approach, but in a outsourcing model, there is a transactional approach.
Okay.
So there will be a contract for a fixed period of time with a fixed number of people on a particular pain point, or for which that center is delivering a short-term solution,
Hmm.
right? So that is the third element is long-term and short-term. So GCCs are long-term because they have to invest in infrastructure, they have to invest in talent, they have to invest in processes, right? But not so much with outsourcing.
Okay.
So that is another aspect. And then location and talent. So generally, what would happen is if you are outsourcing, you can actually outsource to several companies
Hmm.
the same task
Hmm.
and in several locations.
Hmm.
But in GCCs, you will have particular locations where all the activities will be, delegated into. And then innovation and knowledge transfer. So
Hmm.
this happens in GCCs, but there are predefined services under which outsourcing works.
Okay.
So that is another element of difference, and quality and consistency. So when you have a GCC, you have company standards which
Mm-hmm.
these GCCs have to follow. But the standards in outsourcing are actually variable.
Correct.
So then there is a little bit of a control factor, which, and there is a lot of sometimes uh, repair work which
Mm-hmm.
goes into, but
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't happen so much into in the GCCs, right? So these are primarily the difference, and main I would put is ownership. It makes a big difference,
Absolutely.
and at the same time they are getting all the benefits of outsourcing.
Correct.
The GCCs are getting all the benefits of outsourcing, but the ownership remains with the company.
Okay. So talking about GCCs from the Indian context, when did they start becoming popular in India, and how have they evolved over the years?
See, if you, I don't know what was the rage that time in year 2000, but there was a big movement called Y2K,
Okay.
shift from 1999 to 2000 because of the number change in years.
Mm-hmm.
That time, the whole world was depending on India and Indian talent to do that shift, and there was a lot of uncertainty till 1st January 2000.
Oh.
Yeah, between 31 December 1999 to 1st January 2000, because people didn't know how the system will work. You
Huh.
know, 19 was always continuing, no, 1980,
Huh, huh,
1990,
huh.
1981. Suddenly you are changing a whole
Yeah.
century.
Yeah.
So that time it worked very well. It was very smooth transition. That is, I think, the first time the world came to know about the real talent, the public. See, the corporates knew about the Indian IT talent, but
Mm.
the public came to know because it was impacting each and every person
Mm.
in the world, because through everybody had a computer, right? And they were working. So that is the time when GCCs evolved. I mean, started actually.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yes, and why India, and why people started looking at India, because of number one, in Y2K they experienced that Indians have good English,
Okay.
right? Engineering education, basic education was good, maths was good, science is good, good finance schools,
Okay.
finance understanding, our banking system, our banking regulatory authorities are very good.
Mm-hmm.
The financial systems, and at the same time low cost of operations for India, and infrastructure development was happening very well.
Okay.
If you remember, Vajpayee was the when Mr. Vajpayee was prime minister, all these quadrilateral roads and
Yeah.
all these big national super highways which have been were started that time.
Correct.
So it was giving confidence to the world that India is happening, and the FDI, foreign direct investment policy, also started promoting the knowledge domain of the. Otherwise till then we were mostly into agriculture and manufacturing.
Mm-hmm.
So services and particularly IT
Mm.
specific policies started coming in India. So
Okay.
that is how it started. But till almost, I will say, 2015,
Mm.
it was still looked upon as a low cost, like a uh, cost reduction activity,
Okay.
right? Because of low cost of labor in India.
Answer.
But from 2015 onwards,
Mm.
the strategic alignment of the MNCs shift took place.
Okay.
Not just only looking at low cost,
Mm.
but even strategic alignment, because the talent pool in India became very, very rich,
Okay.
and it got connected to all the global standards, the even the change in the education policy, and that is the time when activities like skill India, make in India, all these programs came, and Ministry of Skill Development was formed. So it gave a very clear understanding to the world that over a period of next few years, India will have a huge talent pool. So they
Mm-hmm.
always do things early. They get a signal and they start doing. So even before India was ready, they started, they made their strategic shift. That don't just look to India as a low cost operating place, but also for innovation,
Mm-hmm.
also for R&D, also for process optimization. Also, India became a market a huge market.
Hmm.
Right? India opened its economy in 1991. So we became a market. So there was a large customer base also, not only in India but neighboring countries, Southeast Asia, which are all called Asian tigers.
Hmm.
So many of these MNCs, they said that let us be nearer to the customer. So that is the customer support,
Hmm.
but in a nearer geography, because it will have benefits of time zone, it will have benefits of better cultural understanding of the region by the GCCs which are based there,
Okay.
right? And also as a back office support, right? So actually a strategic version of call center.
So let's move on to the next question, which is, you mentioned that apart from just thinking about it as a back office, they started thinking about a lot of other things. So what typical benefits do MNCs get by GCCs? And overall, you mentioned innovation, and people start looking at that. Like how are like how is a GCC contributing to innovation and efficiency in these parent companies?
See, most MNCs in the world have always found that it is very difficult to innovate in a very large company,
Okay.
because there are processes and there are structures and there are hierarchies of decision making, and innovation is very, is very like creative thing. So, and therefore you will find, MNCs, Microsoft and or Apple or anybody, they buy out small companies. we
Correct.
we hear sometimes, oh, this company's sales was hardly 300,000 US dollar and it was bought out for $50 million.
Okay.
I mean, it doesn't make sense to us, right? But the real reason is that small companies innovate, and that is why GCCs actually became like a small company arm of the MNC,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a lot of their and their focus becomes R&D and innovation, and because they are closer to the marketplace, customer closeness,
Mm-hmm.
so the innovation uh, activity is happening there for the MNCs, right? And also, initially, as I said, was cost efficiency which they were looking at. But then they started seeing that they are getting, through these GCCs, they are getting access to global talent,
Mm-hmm.
right? And your scalability. Most of the GCCs who started small today are huge, right, in numbers. At the same time, flexibility and 24 by 7 operations.
Correct.
This is interesting because if you are spread across the world, always you are up,
Correct.
because in different time zones you are operating.
Correct.
And strategic alignment, of course, because strategy is very important part of MNC growth, right? Risk management also. Now, suppose if they were centered at some place and there was an earthquake, or there is a flood, or there are some, nowadays a lot of civil strife is happening all over the world. But if you are spread across and you have a GCC in different locations, your risk, you are able to manage the risk.
Mm.
This uncertainty is happening a lot. See, in all over Europe also nowadays,
Absolutely.
even in US and Canada, all developed countries are facing that situation,
Right.
right? So this is a also a good risk mitigation approach in a
Right.
way. And of course, customer proximity, long term value creation. One very important thing which has happened very lately, say I'll say, in fact, kind of post pandemic, is the focus on CSR for ESG.
Right.
So the ESG, which is actually connected to sustainability and also climate change. So all these MNCs are following the ESG standards, and they have actually shifted their ESG activities and tracking, as well as CSR to the global, to the GCCs. So
Mm-hmm.
that, because generally people look to these areas as non productive
Mm.
aspects of business,
Correct.
but it has a strategic impact on
Absolutely.
business, because in some countries by regulation these are going to happen over next few years. So this is the importance
Of
and
any
the
GCC.
benefits
Okay.
to the MNCs.
So let's move on to some more India specific questions. So, why do you think India attracts so many GCCs? What factors make it an attractive destination? And you mentioned this already, access to talent pool, access to talent pool. What exactly are you referring to? Like, how are they contributing to GCC success?
See, what was happening is, and this is interesting, a lot of this
What?
body shopping used to happen. Body shopping, like we were deputing Indian talent to these MNCs abroad,
Okay.
and they were on contract with contracting companies,
Okay.
and they were working for these companies. So
Okay.
they were not directly hired. It was like head, you know, there was a contracting company, and they would take a contract for manpower supply to the MNCs or American companies, and these people will go and work, right? 1 year in one company, second year in some another company. The contracting company is what the Indian talent used to work for.
Okay.
Now, the GCCs have kind of replaced that, because now what is happening is that you are working for the same company but from India, right? And the moment you are going abroad and working with them, all the cost escalates,
Absolutely.
right? So now they are getting same talent but at a lower cost and operating from India.
Correct.
And
So,
and over a period of time, many of them will move to US, or I mean, where in any country, developed country where they are working for. But then the cost of building that talent through skill
hmm,
development and understanding the culture of the MNC happens at a low cost place. So that is a very big factor. But from Indian point of view, see, very simple. That, as I said, we are back to knowledge economy, and that is why programs like Digital India and Skill India and all these have strong impact. We are getting a very large and skilled talent pool. Earlier also we had a talent pool, but it was not skilled. Now we have a skilled talent pool. So that is something which is,
which is, I guess, unique to a country like India.
yes, exactly. See, if you compare us to China, for example, China English is a
Big
is a weak
challenge.
point, right? And and it is more of a process oriented approach they have, rather than innovation, rather than entrepreneurship or innovation, related. So, and then English proficiency, as I already mentioned, and the global talent hub. Basically, this is like it is like a HR school. I will use a crude word.
A lot of IT service folks in the comment section are gonna get angry with you, Jagatji.
No. It actually, truly speaking, the words may be different,
Hmm.
but it is a place where the youngsters or the people working will understand the culture of the MNC, and therefore over a period of time they will integrate very well with that, right? Rather than somebody training them and senior executives spending their time to train them, and they actually get trained on the culture of the company, because this is actually owned by the company, right? GCC. So that is another thing. Of course, cost advantage, your operational efficiency goes up. India has now very advanced IT and infrastructure, you know, IT infrastructure. So the special economic zones which have been created, IT parks which are there, right? So the STPs which have been there. So that is, if take example of Gift City in Gandhinagar, it is becoming popular, right? And all the MNCs are moving there. A lot of GCCs are moving to Gift City, right? Because of the infrastructure which has been created there. And the Indian, the maturity level also of Indian talent pool is also high, because of these GCCs, right? Then you have your infrastructure development which is happening in India. Government support is strong. I will later on speak on some aspects of government policies,
A
right?
lot of controversial stuff coming, guys.
Yes,
Stay tuned.
certainly. There is both plus and minus,
Right.
right? Proximity to emerging markets, I already spoke about. The digital transformation which is happening in India,
Right.
the direct dovetailing to the GCCs, right? Today, if you see like uh, about 1.4 billion people, 1 billion people have smartphone,
Yeah.
right? So, like the digital literacy in India is 100%.
Yeah, he may not know how to read, write, and all, but he knows how to do a
Yes.
UPI payment.
Yes. Right. And 65% of India's population is below 35 years of age. That's 1 billion.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Everybody below 35 years of age has a smartphone.
Yeah.
So that digital transformation impacts every level, including it impacts the quality of manpower for GCCs, right, which they are now hiring. And political and economic stability is there in India, particularly after 2014,
Right.
right? Even the third election, there is a political stability. When the election results were declared, it seemed like it's a question mark.
Yeah, yeah. You know, I was quite
Right?
anxious. I gave you a
Yes,
call. I was like,
but
what the hell?
right, but we have seen these whatever time has gone by that it is stable,
Right.
right? So those are uh, some of the factors which because of
Just
which it
made.
attracts
Okay.
GCCs in India.
So let's move on to the next part, which is talking strictly about numbers. You did mention multiple times that cost effectiveness. So break this down for me. Like, what cost advantage does a GCC get when they set up in India? That's one. And overall, how do these GCCs impact the Indian economy if they are owned by foreign entities?
No, see, for any country, the economy grows through job creation.
Okay.
So job creation will happen either in manufacturing, agriculture, or services.
Simple.
All over the world, even in India now, the contribution of services to the GDP of the country is always high,
Hmm.
right? So IT, all this GCC is also part of that. It's a knowledge domain activity.
Hmm.
So for any government or any country, the primary goal would be job creation
Okay.
because that leads to security and safety of the population. And you are taking care in a country like India, where
Hmm.
almost 10 million people every year they graduate. More
Hmm.
than that, in fact, 16 million people.
Hmm.
Imagine that's not even the population of so many countries.
Right.
They graduate every year, so you have to get them jobs, right?
Right.
So these centers are like multipliers, GCCs, because see, when a GCC is set up, it is not just the people who are working there. There are so many service providers to those GCCs.
Correct.
There is the cab services, there are
The
residential
construction, the guy who builds the
accommodation,
building, accommodation,
right?
food.
Right? And every day, and the restaurants and the entertainment industry and the your beer bars, right?
You'll see them coming around a lot in Bangalore, huh?
Right, right.
I'm
So,
sure you missed that in Gujarat.
yeah. No, you know what is a Gujarati beer?
I don't know.
Chas.
Comment below if you're from Gujarat. Do you know is what he's saying correct? But yeah, I get it.
Yeah. So the whole economy benefits out of it.
True.
And naturally, all these people who are working in GCCs, over a period of time, many of them will become entrepreneurs
Absolutely.
because they get the experience, and they get a global experience. See, entrepreneurship today has to be global. I always say, efficiently create goods and services which meet global market demand, leading to rising living standard for everybody in the society, and which is sustainable into the future. That is the definition of competitiveness. GCC is actually nothing but
Enabling that.
enabling factor of competitiveness, and the people working in GCCs are going to get that know-how, and many of them will turn into entrepreneurs. So you can imagine how much multiplier effect it will have, because each entrepreneur will hire in turn so many people, and plus they will also get international exposure, because from GCCs also people travel a lot,
Correct.
because there are teams with whom they work all over the world,
Correct.
right? So those are some of the benefits to the country which it comes. And in any case, we, we have always believed Vasudev Kutumbakam, right? The whole world is one family. India
Absolutely.
has always believed in it. And India has given things like yoga to the world, right? And GCCs are also something which is going to propel India as a brand,
Correct.
right? Because this is again a knowledge domain, and we are in a knowledge economy once more, which we were when we were called Sone Ki Chidiya.
Yeah, I think that's right. So it does have a significant positive impact. So let's talk about this. This has been a great thing to happen to us, which is how has the Indian technology ecosystem supported the growth of these GCCs, and how do you think uh, the impact this Indian technology ecosystem has had to enable more and more GCCs to come and probably be more successful, build out larger GCCs?
No, so technology is, if you start from education,
Okay.
if you see the Indian Institute of Science or the IITs of India, they were very limited. We had few, one or two IITs. Today we have IITs in so many states. In fact, we are setting up an IIT in Dubai,
Oh,
Abu Dhabi. I am not very sure.
oh,
Right, almost in finishing stage now.
is it?
Yes, absolutely. So
Okay.
so that is the breeding point. And earlier, most of these graduates would go abroad.
Hmm.
Now many of them are joining GCCs, right?
Hmm.
So you have a retainership. You are retaining that talent
Hmm.
because there is a lot of state investment in IITs.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Right, the state is investing, and then we are losing that talent pool. Not really losing,
Hmm.
we are contributing to the world, and it in fact comes back to India through many ways,
Hmm. Hmm.
including NRI remittances.
Hmm.
Right, but the technology, so right from education, where there is a academia industry linkage,
Hmm.
to the startup ecosystem, which started in 2015, like Startup India.
Hmm.
So Startup India is also a very good, focal point where technology is the focus of companies,
Hmm. Hmm.
to become. So if you see how many unicorns have been created since 2015 in India, right? All their success is because of the technology
Hmm.
backup, and then your IT infrastructure in terms of physical infrastructure, and the digital infrastructure in terms of the your optical fiber cables,
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
and the all the telecom companies which have played a role, the
Hmm.
speed of communications. And so all these uh, is what factors. And on top of it, if you add English, there
Hmm.
is no
Hmm.
competition to India,
Hmm.
right?
So I guess the only good thing which the British managed to do is this.
Yeah, but let me also tell you, of course, and we are doing this program also in English.
Huh.
But let me tell you, I mean, when we were Sone Ki Chidiya, nobody knew English.
Right.
And we were
Yeah, yeah,
25%
yeah.
GDP. Today we know English, we are 3% GDP of the world, right?
Food for thought, guys. True, true, true.
See,
The ah,
Japanese, even if they know English, they are so proud they will reply to you in Japanese.
yeah, they'll have a translator there and they'll reply to you in
And is the
Japanese.
French also same. Actually, language is a very high form of capital.
That's true.
See,
Absolutely.
Chinese don't know English, understood, but their merchandise export is 8 times more than India.
So that's not the only factor, is what you're
Right.
saying.
Right. Yes, but it's important because MNCs work in English,
Right.
and
At least it'll give you a kickstart.
yes, it is an advantage. It is an advantage.
Absolutely. So now let's get into some interesting parts, which is something which the next few points have been in the news a lot lately. Let's start with some setting up some context. So in India, we live in a country where you have the central government, but the state governments also have a lot of power. And what why are a lot of state governments trying to attract GCCs to their respective states? Like, what kind of benefit do you think they see?
See, India is, there is nothing like India. India is a country, right? India is made up of states,
Right.
right? Everything of you talk of India is about states. There are
Correct.
so many states. So all this what I said so far is applicable to all states. So job creation,
The boost the
talent
local
pool,
economy.
yeah, boost the entrepreneurship, innovation.
Hmm.
So every state is impacted with that. Now the point is that every state always has wanted to be a leader in the economic front for India. There
Absolutely.
are many states who have said we want to. They have given a timeline that by this timeline we want to be $1 trillion economy as a state.
Mm-hmm.
So India is a almost now $4 trillion economy.
Right.
But Uttar Pradesh, for example, has taken a target to be $1 trillion state. Just Uttar Pradesh,
Mm-hmm.
right? So how will you do that? It is only going to happen through economic activity. And GCCs are a very good way of economic activity. Let me give you a very interesting government perspective to this. If in a GCC there are 1,000 people working,
Mm.
they pay tax
Correct.
on the salary.
Correct.
That's the revenue.
Yeah.
So when we say governments want job creation,
They really
actually it
want
is in their
tax.
interest,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
And then that money will be used for developmental work, for backward regions, for underserved population,
Right.
which is fair. It
Correct.
should be, it should be the contribution of every educated and successful Indian to do
Mm-hmm.
that. So that is directly linked. So there is a socio-economic political factor to this.
Okay.
So the socio is the job creation, the economic is the GDP and increase in taxes, and there is also a political aspect to governing any state.
Absolutely.
So they every state the same way, like every state wants manufacturing to happen in their place. That's why they compete with each other and they give more
Incentives.
attractive incentives
Mm-hmm.
and facilities. Same way they are doing it for GCCs also.
Absolutely. So, so then let's get into how their incentives and policies are trying to attract GCCs. Any good examples you'd like to share? What kind of incentives do you think governments are giving to attract GCCs, and any good successful state level policies which you have seen?
Yeah. So
I will tell this. I do remember reading stories on SM Krishna, Chandrababu Naidu, and couple of, I think, Modi ji back in 2000s, very aggressively giving incentives. And if you ask me, these three cities, at least Bangalore, Hyderabad, and in Gujarat, Ahmedabad, I would contribute the fact that these cities are so huge today. I don't know how they are not categorized as metro cities by the central government. But I think these have become big drivers for growth in India. And I would attribute it to those three leaders at that time. I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong because I was very young at that time. Uh, but this is the only know-how I have. So, would you like to shed light on this incentive policies and how state governments attract GCCs?
see, on a lighter note, why Bangalore is not a metro city? Because metro is not yet complete.
तब तो 20 साल तक भी नहीं होगा जगत जी.
So if you complete metro, it will become a metro city.
Right.
So that's fine, the government definition, but otherwise it's a metro city.
Yeah.
So you see what? So every government, whether it is manufacturing or services like GCC, they have policies. How they are incentivizing? They are giving reimbursement, for example, of stamp duty and registration fees for
Hmm.
the premises which they take up to work. There's interest subsidies if they are taking any, their Indian operations are taking any loans. There are tax incentives, there are tax holidays.
Hmm.
In from manufacturing point of view, if you recall, when Tata Nano
Hmm.
moved out of West Bengal and came to Gujarat,
Right.
there were a lot of tax holidays that is been given to many companies,
Right. Right.
right, from abroad also. Same thing happens to GCCs.
Hmm.
Reduced GST rates.
Hmm.
There's a very big impact because in GST also there is a component of the state. Then exemptions on electricity duty.
Hmm.
That is also huge because for GCCs that is a big cost,
Absolutely.
right? And then exemptions, your land and infrastructure support,
Hmm.
preferential land allotment,
Hmm.
right? Later on, I'll give you a very interesting example of a company without naming it in Gujarat,
Hmm.
and very interesting case study.
Hmm.
Then your infrastructure development,
Hmm.
which they promise, plug and play facilities. You go to any European country,
Hmm.
uh, Germany, even Estonia. Estonia, by the way, is called the digital capital of the world.
Hmm.
97% of every government compliance is done online.
Wow.
Yeah, you can even open a bank account in Estonia by forming a company which will become a e-resident companies. You can open a bank account through a digital signature from India.
Wow.
Now that is ease of doing business,
Absolutely.
right? So plug and play facility, then skill development and training support.
Hmm.
So many states have said, okay, if you hire so many people, I mean, and then
I'll foot the bill for the training.
yes, for the training,
Hmm.
right? So that's a huge support. Then training, that they call as training grants.
Hmm.
Then there is industry academia collaboration, because these cities like Bangalore and Hyderabad and Ahmedabad and others are they have very good academic institutions.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
so that is a very strong point for these GCCs. Regulatory and procedural simplification, single window clearance, special economic zones and IT parks, and then there are specific incentives for IT parks,
Hmm.
right? Uh, Take example of Gujarat, gift city. So Gujarat is a dry state.
Right.
I told you Gujarati beer,
Right.
but gift city they have allowed alcohol.
Seriously.
Yes,
My God.
right. So for those people who are working there and the companies based there, right? So that is another incentive, I would say. People always used to talk in Gujarat that IT talent is not coming because alcohol is bad.
Also, weather is very, very hot.
Yeah, weather is hot. That's right. But after drinks, it doesn't matter what's the weather.
Seriously, in Gift City, it is allowed?
Yes,
Wow.
yes, absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. It's a policy. It's a policy framework which has come. Then ease of doing business. Then, like in manufacturing, there is a production linked incentive scheme.
Right.
Same way, there is a employee linked incentive schemes, which
Oh.
as many number of employees you hire, so much of incentive is being given by states to attract GCCs,
Wow. Okay.
right? Then there is your job creation incentive. So women and minority hiring is getting incentive. Women is very important part. See, if you go to China today, if I'm not wrong, almost 62% of women in China are part of the economic workforce,
Wow.
and 65% in US, but 20% in India. So until and unless women, I mean, they are 50% of population.
Yeah.
When you are talking of becoming a developed country, or we are talking of becoming a 5 trillion economy, it is not possible without higher women participation. So many states are giving incentive, and in fact, if you would have observed, I have seen that in many GCCs there is a high percentage of women working, because that type of a work is actually they are
They're
the
very
right,
good at it.
very good at it, and they all the qualities of women like multitasking and so many others. uh, so that is another benefit which is there. Then support for research and development. There is a
Okay.
R&D, there is a government institutions are there. R&D grants and funding is also being given. Innovation ecosystem is being created. So if you see the startup hubs or the incubation centers, almost every university has,
Mm-hmm.
right? The one most important factor I'll tell you, networking opportunity. So what is happening because of these GCCs and so much large talent pool from across the country going to these cities where there are GCCs, many institutions have come up who are creating networking opportunities, and these networking opportunities leads to entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Even institutions like Rotary has a institution called Rotary Means Business.
Mm.
Then there is your organizations like CII, FICCI, SOCHM, uh, organizations like TAI, the Indus Entrepreneurs,
Right.
the Chambers of Commerce. So This is also a very big factor. And then tailored incentive packages are there. This is becoming very strong now. A lot of companies like Tesla and all, they negotiated on a very tailored incentive package. So for every MNC which is wanting to set up GCC, every state is giving them a tailored incentive package.
So is company like Tesla coming to India? No.
That is a
Negotiations going on still.
yeah, that must be going on because there are a lot of factors to it. There is a domestic industry which has to be taken care of, and there is a overall policy change in import duty which has to be considered.
Right.
So there are many factors on that, but the GCC
Of
is
Tesla is
different.
there.
Yes, right.
Right.
So like that, and customized incentives. So all this is what I said separately gets into a package,
Mm-hmm.
and then the different states are actually, and there are MNCs who take that package to another state and they say, look, this is what we are getting, and somebody has to beat it.
So this very nicely transitioned to my next question, which is competition among states. Right? How do states compete with each other to attract GCCs? And in your opinion, what are some successful states you've seen attracting GCCs?
No, so I would say the most successful state is Karnataka.
Okay.
Today there are 400 GCCs in Karnataka.
Wow.
400,
Wow.
right? And the policies are like capital subsidies have been given by the state government. Exemption, as I told, exemption in stamp duty and registration fees, single window clearance. And the impact of that is you have companies like Google,
Mm.
who has a GCC in Bangalore,
Mm.
Microsoft, IBM,
Mm.
right? So then there are companies in SEZs also.
Mm.
So SEZs, you have Intel, SAP, Accenture in Bangalore, in the SEZs. So because of these, so Bangalore is leading. In fact, Karnataka in the country is leading on GCCs. Then,
So, like, what do you think they did so well to be able to attract? Apart from, you mentioned the incentives, but I'm sure other states are also giving this.
I think, to me personally, coming from Gujarat, I think it is the weather. No, truly speaking.
Okay.
Because see, this is a talent pool who wants to go and work abroad.
Mm.
And one of the reasons of that is also weather. Like the India is very hot overall, but Bangalore weather is very cool. I mean, throughout the year,
Mm.
right? And another is the networking opportunities, the culture.
Mm-hmm.
It is truly a melting pot
Absolutely.
of India, not only of India, of the world. The last I heard from someone that 130 nationalities live
In Bangalore.
in Bangalore.
Wow.
I mean, so it's a melting pot. So you really, if you know how to network well, you can really network
In
globally
Bangalore.
from here. And the standard of living, and particularly see all these GCCs attract a lot of young people.
Mm.
And I think this pub culture and the evening entertainment culture and is also a big pull factor. I have seen that. I have spoken to many youngsters, right? And also, I would even say when I compare Bangalore to say Ahmedabad, where I come from, the greenery,
Mm.
the greenery, it is quite like almost like a garden city, right?
It
There's-
was the garden
It
city.
is, but yeah, but still the greenery is there,
Yeah.
right? As compared to many other cities.
Right.
So that makes a good living, right? And the like I have come this time for long term. I mean, I'm here for a month, and I have taken a place, and that's so clean. The cleanliness have I think the habits of the people, right?
Mm-hmm.
The place where I live is very clean and very good lifestyle, basically, right? Gated community, but club and swimming pool and a lot of sports activities. So that type of infrastructure is
Does.
missing in many other states,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it is not just the workplace; it is also the living.
That's what attracts the talent, and talent is
Right.
what will attract GCC.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Then the second I would say is Andhra.
Okay.
Right. So
Hyderabad.
it is Hyderabad. It's called the Cyberabad.
Yeah.
Cyberabad success story, and Bangalore is called the Silicon Valley of India.
Right.
Right. And Telangana. So Telangana's IT focus with fiscal incentives. Again, same capital subsidy, tax exemptions,
Mm-hmm.
and also Telangana has come out with a tier 2, tier 3 separate policies for GCCs.
Okay.
So that is something new which has come, and because of that, Amazon, Facebook, Apple,
Have opened up
their
there.
GCCs are there
Yeah.
in Hyderabad.
Correct.
So that Andhra I would rate as second.
Okay.
I mean Telangana, and then the research and innovation circle of Hyderabad, right? The T Hub. They have set up a T Hub,
Correct.
and that is a startup incubator,
Right.
and a lot of talent pool is coming from there for these GCCs. Rich innovation system, and in these innovation centers, Microsoft and Deloitte have set up their GCCs, right? Then Maharashtra, I would say third.
Okay.
And Maharashtra is the only state where there are two centers, Mumbai and Pune. Everywhere, like in Karnataka,
There's
only
only
Bangalore.
one. Right.
Even in Telangana, only Hyderabad. But in Maharashtra, it's Mumbai and Pune.
Pune. How did they manage to pull that off?
No, so because again, see, Bombay had become very high cost center because of the cost of living and also transport, and this is going to happen to Bangalore.
Yeah, I see that happening.
Yes, maybe Mysore they shift or
Right.
shift somewhere, because that will reach a peak, right? So Maharashtra government has also given your stamp duty exemptions and interest subsidies and all the schemes which I told you, training grants, right, networking opportunities, and the impact of that is companies like JP Morgan Chase, Citibank and Barclays and IBM and Siemens. They are based in Mumbai.
Okay.
And in Pune, you have IBM, Amdocs, Capgemini.
Right.
So there are a lot of these GCCs which have come up there. Then fourth, I will put Tamil Nadu.
Okay.
Right, Chennai, which is actually a manufacturing hub, but it is becoming a IT hub also. Their ICT policy, I have gone through it. I think it is one of the best policies of the state.
ICT.
ICT policy.
What is that?
Information Communication Technology.
Okay.
It's IT policy, basically.
Right.
And,
you say it's one of the best.
Yes.
What makes it the best?
It is a see, they have added a power tariff concession.
Wow.
So there is a power tariff concession to it. That is one. And other benefits, of course, are there. And also talent pool and single window clearance. So that is very nice. And Cognizant, Ford, and Standard Chartered, they have their operations in Chennai. But again, Tamil Nadu has not been able to move GCCs to tier 2 and tier 3 towns. But I think Coimbatore,
It's slowly
like
becoming one.
Coimbatore is there are some there. I do not recall the names. And then fifth, I would rate Andhra Pradesh.
After?
Yes, Andhra Pradesh. So not Telangana.
Yeah.
Hyderabad is Telangana.
Yeah.
So Andhra Pradesh is Vizag.
Okay.
Right, because it has split, right? So it is known as the emerging IT and fintech hub.
Okay.
And they have a very good policy which they came out in 21.
Okay.
Right, 2021. And companies like Conduent, Tech Mahindra, HSBC, they have set up operations there. And in fact, HSBC is one of my clients. I train a lot of their GCC staff.
Okay.
And then sixth is Haryana.
Haryana?
Gurgaon.
Who would have thought?
Gurgaon is a huge.
Gurgaon.
Okay, Gurgaon.
Huge.
That's in Haryana.
Right.
Because of its proximity to Delhi,
yeah.
And even otherwise. And it's called the corporate and tech hub of the country. Right. So they have a very, again, a sound IT policy. And Google is there, Genpact, American Express, many others. They are in Haryana, Gurgaon. And again, if you go to Gurgaon, you will find a very similar culture like Bangalore.
Okay.
Except for the temperature. Which is hot.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And then
you have extremes there, extreme hot or extreme cold. It's very frustrating.
Again, traffic infrastructure is bad, and a lot of water logging also. So everywhere, wherever there is a flow of talent, manpower, job creation, that is a problem. Because we don't have long-term planning. We always plan, we say 5 year is a long-term plan. Long-term plan has to be 20 years plan.
Right.
And then you have to finish also the metro by that time.
Correct.
Right. So then I will rate seventh as Kerala.
Okay.
Kochi.
Okay.
So Kochi and Trivandrum both,
Hmm.
and growing IT and startup ecosystem. Startup ecosystem is very mature. One of the very early startup ecosystems came up there, and they have a lot of policies on capital subsidy exemption, and again rebate on power tariffs, right? See, whatever are the major costs in GCCs, if you are subsidizing them, that will attract them. What is the cost? Cost is salary. So you are giving them training grants, so you don't have to spend time on that. And the moment they join you, they are productive. Then power is a high cost for a GCC. They are giving power subsidy. There is a tax which on their income. So there are tax exemptions.
Right.
If you are taking a bank loan, there is interest subsidy. Whatever are the costs, if you are taking care of, why would any state take care of it? So that it creates jobs in the
Simple.
state,
Yeah.
right? So that
And
is one
stimulates
thing.
that local economy.
Correct, correct. And that is why in Kerala you have TCS, you have Infosys, you have UST Global.
Hmm.
They have set up their GCCs there, right? So these are some of this. I think the 7 top states in India which are performing, and Gujarat is there, Gift City, which is a new one.
It just
And
started.
yeah, just started, but it is getting good
Any
traction.
particular reason why Gujarat was not able to attract GCCs in the past?
See, one thing I will tell you a very interesting case study. So, I am not naming the company, but they got a sanction. The government gave them a very, very subsidized land, huge,
When?
for 15,000 people. I will come to that. It will reveal the company.
Okay.
So, but the 15,000 people were going to work there. In fact, they are working right now. And the government of Gujarat said, we will give you and many other facilities, but 50% of the employees should be from Gujarat.
Interesting.
Right? But it was not a policy, it was a tailored negotiation,
Okay.
customized proposal.
Okay.
Incentives we are giving, but against that, what will we get?
Correct.
Because as I keep saying, employment generation for every state is a question.
100%.
So this is the deal which was done, and they gave a commitment. Okay, we will do it. They built up amazing complex. They have amazing infrastructure. I have not seen such an infrastructure anywhere. And then they started hunting for people. In Gujarat, nobody wants to work on a job. Everybody is an entrepreneur. From college, they start business.
Okay.
They were not able, they were giving such services that we will pick you up from your house, we'll drop you back to your house. The lunch is on the company, breakfast is on the company.
They're
If
still
you
not able
work
to
night
hire.
shift, dinner also. So many sports facilities were there. Good lifestyle, everything. They were not getting people. And actually, they came to me saying that we need to get people. What do we do? And we went to colleges and we used to go with appointment letters, blank. Only the name of the person had to be written. And we would do a 3-round sensitization. First, we will explain about the company, that this is the company. Then we would explain, then we would take a read. Then we would say, okay, out of 100 people who were in the room, youngsters, how many of you are interested to work in this company?
Right.
So 50 would say yes. Then we would do a written exam, and 25 would qualify.
Hmm.
Same day.
And give them an appointment letter.
And to those 25 we would interview, and to almost all 25 we used to give appointment letter because they were passed written. So
Right. They'll
like a
have some
qualifier.
level of intellect. Yeah.
qualifier. And out of that 5 joined,
My God.
and out of that also 2 or 3 quit after 3 months.
Okay.
So what I'm trying to say, I don't know you know or not, but one of the lowest unemployment rate of India is in Gujarat.
Hmm.
I think less than 1%.
Right.
So it's a very prosperous state,
Right.
right? So manpower is a challenge, and that is why then after a lot of struggle they went and explained this is the reality. They said, you give us talent
I will hire immediately.
immediately. And government also understood, government realized, and then today it is a flourishing center. People are there from all over India, all over world, in fact. It's a very, very flourishing center.
So this very nicely takes me to the next question, which was, you mentioned, right, how Gujarat tried to get 50% local whatever for the local residents. Karnataka government recently had a draft law. It was just a draft. It didn't. I don't think. I think they've pulled it back. But it created a lot of ruckus online and on Twitter, and uh, it was basically trying to get reservation for the locals from Karnataka and private companies. And what is your take on this attempt which they did, and what do you think?
See,
What impact it has already had, although it's not passed?
see, I have discussed this in last 15 days. I am in Bangalore with many companies. I know I am connected to many MNCs here and many GCCs also and many companies. So, including manufacturing. Uh, what is my understanding is that uh, when I was giving you the example of Gujarat, it was not a policy of the state. It was
Right.
a one-to-one negotiation,
Right.
and which was also flexible. When they understood that this is a challenge, they said that's okay. Right? It was not a policy. It was not declared like a policy.
Right.
Right? The moment you declare it as a policy, you are actually negating every factor because of which GCCs are coming to Karnataka. Why they are coming? Because of talent pool. So talent pool has to be national,
Or even international.
even international. So you are negating that very factor. You are negating the factor of like efficiency, because the moment you have reservation for anything, it is very clear, there is evidence all over the world that any reservation of any kind reduces
Efficiency.
the efficiency. And third most important factor, I feel, even if that would have come, like in case of Gujarat, they negotiated a deal, but they could not get the people.
Something
Then
like that
what would have happened if it would have been a policy?
Right. There's no
Then it
scope
would have
left.
closed down. And even those few who are working from
Huh.
Gujarat would have lost jobs. And the same thing would happen to Karnataka if it comes as a policy. People, the companies will not get people. Tell me these 400 GCCs, where they will get 70% of the people from Karnataka. And the very reason that they came here to get a national talent pool and international is negated. There is no, it's actually a disincentive. There is no need to give incentives. I mean, you are giving a disincentive to them and they would start moving. I know of MNCs who, the day it was declared as even as a draft policy, same day they have prepared a note and sent to their HOs saying that if this comes, this is the impact which we will have in our company. Because it's a risk mitigation approach they have. No, they are all public listed companies. They have stock. They have their share prices get impacted by these things
Correct.
globally, and huge amount of wealth can be eroded. No, so if they had, I know of some people who had prepared notes saying this will be the impact, and it was very negative. And they would have, if it would have come through, they would have moved. They would have actually, other states would have used it as an incentive. The disincentive of Karnataka would become an incentive to move to some another state.
Right. It's hyper competitive between
Right.
states right now.
Exactly. And I'm sure a lot of calls would have started next day morning from many states to these companies.
Yeah.
Right? The way there was a call which went from Mr. Modi to Ratan Tata, right? And Tata Nano moved from West Bengal to Gujarat over a phone call,
Yeah.
right? So that is, it is, see, end of the day, merit is what should be honored and respected.
So the counter argument is, a lot of local talent may not be getting jobs or things like that. What's your point?
Not
to that?
really. See, local talent. Take a case of Gujarat. We have so many Kannada people in Gujarat. So why is it necessary for someone from Karnataka to work only in Karnataka? In fact, they will grow more when they move out. Look at Kerala today. Almost every house in Kerala has one person in Middle East. Right? So, and they are actually sending wealth back to Kerala, but through remittances as NRIs. And they build houses and they contribute to the economy. So local talent can work anywhere if they are talent. I mean, that there is a talent.
So you'd rather get the government to invest money in upskilling them than
Correct,
doing all of this
absolutely.
circus.
Upskilling them, skill development, your more of practical training, which is industry focused in partnership with industry. In partnership. So skilling is the challenge. The challenge is not job creation. We don't have skilled people. I will give you another very interesting statistics. There is a World Bank report which says forget the youngsters who are graduating and looking for job. There is a World Bank report which says 72% of the existing workforce in India
Hmm. Needs to be upskilled.
needs to be retrained by 2026 because of AI and robotics and AR, VR and drone technology and all these new technologies which are coming. 72% of the existing workforce has to be retrained. Not to talk of those who are graduating from
तो
over.
कितना भी रिजर्वेशन कर लो, अगर स्किल नहीं है तो जॉब ही
No.
चला जाएगा हाथ से.
Right. And on the contrary, this type of a policy will lead to migration of companies, and even those Kannad people who are working will lose jobs, or they will have to move also. Right. So I think it should never be as a policy. Policy should always be on talent. I mean on productivity, on merit. It should be on merit.
Okay. So, I have an interesting question. This is probably the last question around India and its states before we move further. Because in India, states have so much power, right? A lot of regional laws can either attract or repel a GCC, right? And in your eyes, a lot of these localized regional laws, what is the kind of impact they have on the overall level of India's attractiveness towards GCCs?
Yeah, so that's what I said, that most of the GCCs, when they select a location, this is part of their negotiations, right? And that is what I call the tailored and customized incentive package.
Mm-hmm.
So they would always be distracted if the labor laws are not favorable to them, because then it hinders all their operations, and it actually negates the very purpose of their setting up a GCC. And therefore, you will see nowadays Vietnam is becoming another big center for GCCs.
Mm-hmm.
So the labor laws there are very flexible, right? And we have to make sure that whatever law, and it will always be like a competitive. And you see the 7 8 states which I mentioned, and let me also tell you another interesting statistics, that I think, if I am not wrong, just 8 states of India contribute 65% to the GDP of India, right? So that way, the GCCs have an opportunity to go to not only these 8 states but many other states as well, right? Like I mentioned, tier 2, tier 3 cities, but also tier 2, tier 3 states also, I will say, right? But within these 8 states, tier 2, tier 3 cities, and otherwise other states as well. And whichever state will have a better labor policy, and
will end up attracting
other
them.
laws will always attract. Because see, simple, what is ease of doing business? Ease of doing business is regulatory easiness, right? So on the World Bank Index, in 2014, India's ease of doing business rank was, I think, 149 or something, and out of 182. The closer you are to one, the more ease. And now it has come to like 66, which is very
Great.
good improvement as a national. But every state also has a ease of doing business index.
Right.
Every state. So there is actually a competition within states on ease of doing business. And one of the higher form, I will encourage all viewers to look at 7 forms of capital. It's a very interesting concept. It's called Wolfenson's framework. Wolfenson was the president of World Bank for 10 years. There are 7 forms of capital, and one of the higher form of capital is predictable regulations. Predictable regulations. So regulation should not be favorable only, it should be predictable. It should not happen that today you have given me a set of regulations and I come, and from after 2 years you say, since the time you came, this new regulation will apply to you. Then it's not predictable, right? Which is in retrospect. So retrospective is not predictable. So predictable regulation is a high form of capital, and that is one of the things which attracts people. So what are the seven forms of capital? Because it is also very relevant to GCCs and of them coming to India. There are three lower forms of capital and there are four higher forms of capital. Lower form of capital is excess proximity to natural resources, is lower form of capital. That's why we are, exporting iron ore to Japan, and Japan is exporting steel to India.
Mm-hmm.
Why should we not be making steel next to the iron ore mines,
Mm.
right? Or agriculture is also lower form of capital. That's why our farmers are not prosperous, right? So, and then another lower form of capital is man-made infrastructure. Only after certain limit it has a value. Then it is a diminishing returns. And very interesting World Bank type of a you know institution calls money itself as a lower form of capital. So what is the higher form of capital? One is institutional capital. So that is what I was talking to you about, the networking opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
So institutions like chambers of commerce, industry academia linkage, the education system, the uh, tie kind of organizations, CII, FICCI, these institutions are very important. And then next higher form of capital is knowledge capital. So knowledge capital is your school education. You'll be surprised. In China, from class 5, there is a subject on innovation. We have it as an option in masters, right? Of course. So we have to evolve, and education from school, university, and market linkage is the knowledge part of it. And then there is a next higher form of capital is human capital, where there are two elements: self responsibility and action orientation.
Mm-hmm.
So the kind of cleanliness I was talking, I saw in Bangalore. I see that element of human capital, self responsibility and action. The most interesting, and it has so much of impact to GCC, the highest form of capital, according to Wolfenson's framework, is cultural capital, under which there is an element of trust, another element of wealth creation attitude, another element of long term thinking. So there should be wealth creation attitude. There are some states in India where wealth creation is looked down upon.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But wealth creation is nothing but job creation.
Correct.
The moment you are creating wealth, you are going to create jobs. It is not isolated, it is interdependent, right? And another element of the cultural form of capital is music, architecture, the Indian diaspora abroad, the language. So all these are seven forms of capital is actually elements which are attracting the GCCs to come to India, because we have that in various places. So whenever you see a decision being made, this seven forms of wealth, capital is also being considered as one of the factors, because a lot of things today what we discussed is actually captured into that framework. So it is very important to have uh, policies of the state which do not disturb
These
the
things.
framework. Otherwise, it will disturb the flow of GCCs also, and also talent. See why today Bangalore is so rich in terms of talent pool is because there are people from all over India and all over world who come here. And if you are creating a policy which deters that, it will no more remain a global talent hub.
Interesting. So let's move on to the last part, which is future trends. Uh, how do you look at the future of GCCs, especially given such power which regional players have, and you know any examples in your eyes of successfully either good policies or bad policies attracting companies, uh, and how this can become a framework for other state governments as well.
So the two examples which I gave about the company in Gujarat as well as the Karnataka state policy, which they were coming out with the draft bill, is a very good example of how to attract and how not to attract. But the future is, again, as I said, it's going to be more and more knowledge driven economy, right? And uh, being a 1.4 billion people and growing, it is going to be very uh, imperative on the government, whether at center or state, to create jobs, or we will end up in a very bad situation. Now, take the example of Bangladesh recently. The prime minister won the election with a thumping majority, and then she had to flee her home. Imagine. I mean, we all think that okay, we are middle class, upper middle class, we are rich people, and no civil strife will not impact us, but it impacted a prime minister. So it will impact us also,
Yeah.
right? So, and that is the situation happening in many countries. Same thing happened to Sri Lanka.
Right.
Sri Lanka president had to overnight run from his palace, right? Why? And this is very important again from GCC point of view. GCCs are actually, I would call it as an export, but as a deemed export,
Mm-hmm.
because these companies are are actually
Funding in dollars.
funding in dollars, right?
Yeah.
And it is deemed export. So what is export? Goods and services leave the country and payment comes in foreign currency. Here it's one way. Goods and services are in India in a way, but of course developed here, but payment is coming in foreign currency. Now Sri Lankan crisis came because of foreign currency shortage. They had no money to buy petrol and even medicines and food as
Right.
a country because they were importing. Why? Only two things. One, they only focused as to be a tourist destination.
Mm.
So in pandemic that got hit, and secondly, overnight they decided that all agriculture should be only organic, and they were a very big fruit vegetable exporter, and suddenly it became zero. They had no foreign exchange. So foreign exchange is also a very important criteria of stability of an economy, and that is what GCCs play a role,
Correct.
right, for India. And similar Bangladesh situation, right? And that is why from a long term perspective for India, it is very important that we should actually four times we should be having
More GCCs.
the GCCs which we are having now. And not only that, but also, because it will have a multiplier impact. Many of these people over a period of time working in these companies will start business. Today, you see so many startups, 90,000 startups in India. Almost everyone was working somewhere
Right.
for 5 years, 10 years. And
Right.
they gained experience and contacts and network and know how, and then they started their company. And there are so many unicorns in India who are hiring thousands of people.
Right.
But it all started because they got an opportunity to work in a global company,
Understand frameworks.
understand how it works globally, and then they build products which are also global.
Mm-hmm.
So long term, yeah, this should be very important factor. And technology is changing very fast,
Right.
right? So today, like with the advent of AI, a lot of people are saying many people will lose job. It is, see, technology never makes job losses. I mean, it is always a transition which happens,
Right.
right? People will be trained, people will get themselves trained
Right.
on IT. I will tell you a very interesting example. You were talking of example. I remember very early years, I think 1990, early 2000 maybe, I'm not very sure. Indian Railways used to have a cardboard ticket, and there's a lot of corruption, and and then they said we will have computerized tickets. And then the railway employees went on strike for 3 days because they said we will lose jobs. But it's a customer service.
Yeah.
And from that day to till date today, maybe about a year back, I was looking at data. Indian Railways has hired 80,000 new people. Not one person has been, sacked. With adoption to newer technology, you actually become more efficient
Right.
and successful. And how many more railway tracks have come? How many more passengers are being, moved across the country? But how much ease has it has become? Now everything is online. Now there is not even a computer printed ticket. It
Yeah.
is
It's just an
online ticket,
SMS.
right?
Yeah.
Online. Then people say, what will the printers do? Those who are sitting in the counter and printing ticket. No, they will do online work, but they will have to be reskilled,
Correct.
right? So any new technology is only short term impact on employment creation.
Right.
Uh,
And as you said, we're at Karnataka, we have 400 GCCs. We should be thinking about how do we get 1600 GCCs?
Correct. Correct. There should be actually a plan. The plan should say 1,600 GCCs in 5 years or whatever, right? And run with that plan. Have a like a mission mode program. It should be a mission mode program. So mission mode always has a deadline for everything, and then work on it. And your existing 400 will be your ambassadors,
Absolutely.
right? But you have to keep them happy.
Yeah, you'll have to.
Yeah.
You
Otherwise,
can't.
there will be a 2 minute.
You
bite
can't
on
do retrospective
reservation.
regulation.
Right.
So there you have it, guys. A very detailed episode on GCCs. I hope you got a great overall picture from export expert Dr. Jagat Shah. Do check him out. Links are in the description. His LinkedIn profile, his company. And do subscribe to Export Fundas for more podcasts like this. Our goal is to help you to be able to export across the globe and hopefully get a better understanding of the export markets. See you all in our next video. Thanks, Jagatji.
Thank you, Nikhil. Always fun and joy to speak to you.
Perfect. See you all in our next episode.